Hello. Thanks for joining us today. This is Valorie Renee, and I'm here with Shawn Sykora. We are here.
Ah,
We are here for our unscripted astrology fun time on Friday, October 21st, 2022. So thanks for joining us here live or on the replay.
well,
And
that's a good one.
Shawn,
Yes.
tell me. I have a question for you. Tell
Uh-oh.
me. Tell me. Um,
This
what
is all unscripted. What?
Yes,
What?
are unscripted. So,
What? It's a question and word and no. Oh, sorry.
um, so the veils are really thin. We're in October. Veils are really thin to the other side. Maybe
Oh, right.
shifting.
Scorpio,
And I
Scorpio.
even think, like right now, even with dimensional reality, that there's just some interesting openings going on. So my question is, what is creating this just incredible shifting and changing?
Well, I kind of there's lots of change, especially this month. There's been a lot of planets stationing retrograde or stationing direct, mostly direct, but anyways, we've been kind of like not long ago there was, I think it was 6 planets in retrograde, and that's kind of going within and working on stuff or maybe pausing, or you can always relate it to astrology. Everything's unique, but the more this stays the same, the more things change, and the more things change that stay the same. It's like Mercury retrograde, everybody knows, and it's a good time to review and go over stuff, or generally speaking, it's internal. So when things are retrograde, we kind of go inside, and a lot of times the outside world, it doesn't stop turning, it doesn't stop craziness and busyness, but it's maybe quieter and there's not as much fanfare. But now as things go direct, it's more out in the open, more yang, more you know, out in the world. If you're participating out in the world, you're going to see more action and lots of talk. So the main thing, I'm kind of reviewing what I said before, and the Mars retrograde, the 30th or the 31st, right around there, at the very end of the month of October, it's going to station. And so Mars is our action, or our action strategy planet. It's our little warrior, action figure, hero. It does stuff physically. And it's in Gemini. So it's talking, it's the first mutable sun, which is good because all this transition and change, with the constant is change, and nobody likes to change. Everyone wants to say the same because you learn something and then it's like, oh, I got this. And then it's like computers. I've been learning computers. So it's like, oh, it changed again. It changed again. So it's stationing retrograde. It's going to backtrack where it's been for a month or so. And, but it is communication. And that's, I think one of the allies we have is understanding and communicating, because if you ever watch TV, it's always there's a miscommunication. The whole story builds around it. It's like, oh, I assume this, or I forgot to tell you that, or whatever. And if it's a sitcom comedy, it's nice because they work it out and it's all silly. But in real life, people can get angry, or things don't get accomplished, or Mercury retrograde, you forget to dot the I or cross the T, or there's a famous law. Everything's law case in America. There's like they left out a comma, so somebody didn't get money, or somebody got extra money, or whatever. It's so you want to watch what you're saying, but Mars is like your strategy of talking, and Gemini, it's light facts. It's seeing both sides. The good side is it's calm and it's gentle, and it'll give you a smile or pat on the back, and it's communicating at a more youthful level and more not too serious, and likes to be lighthearted. And then the bad part is some people get frustrated because you're so shallow, or you're not really giving me the meat of what's going on, or if you're vegetarian, not giving me the good root vegetable or whatever. And so we're really focusing on that. And again, I had this kind of idea. It's not going to get out of uh, Gemini until way into March next year. So it's a long time. And before it gets out, Pluto goes into Aquarius for a little bit. So to me, it's kind of like a training course. So Gemini is the first air sign, it's like the most basic communication, and then Pluto's going to go to an Aquarius, which is the third air sign, and that's incredible change that no one can really predict, because it's Aquarians always think of, there's the sky's the limit. It gets to Capricorn, and Capricorn's like, we can get this high and we get 100% and our business will be good or whatever. And then Uranus or Aquarius is like, what's above that? It's like, oh, we got to the top floor of the penthouse. It's like, well, can we build a higher house? Are we going to, go have a rocket ship and have an office on the moon? Or are we going to invent something? So it is very unpredictable. Am I washing out here? I'm washing out. Anyways,
Yeah,
see,
and I think
there's Aquarius. It's white light, and within the white light is the rainbow. If you go through a prison, it's very intense, and there's lots of shading and differences. It just depends on the angle of the prism you're looking through, or whatever. So it's very unique and different, or the black sheep of the family, or the weird one, or whatever. And we were chatting before the show, and it's like, yeah, I do art. It's like, how many people do art for a living? It's very challenging, and some people do, and but most people 9 to 5. But that's another thing. Our world's changing. All these jobs that used to be, you could just do a labor job, or I mean, it's hard work, but now with automation, computers, robots, where our whole society of the whole world's changing. So what is going to be work for the people? So I think that's part of the frustration. We're talking about, different leaders changing in different countries, and or changing back maybe. That's the thing when you see leaders go into office during a retrograde. It's like, oh, they're probably going to leave during a retrograde, or it'll come up
ooh,
again. Yeah, that's a nice marker. And or an eclipse. Now that's another thing. The eclipses have moved. There's still some in the the they're all based on the nodes of the moon, which is crossing the axis of the Earth over the ecliptic, or its center line. And there's still some in Aries and Libra, but it's also shifting to Scorpio, and actually no, it was coming from Gemini and Sag, and now it's Scorpio and Taurus, and they're starting to have also Aries and Libra. Why am I blocking that? Don't talk about those signs yet. So Taurus and Scorpio is mine. It's like the 2-year-old that says mine, and it's your money and your possessions, other than big stuff like real estate, but that's in the 4th house. But most possessions, and when you're looking at a horary chart, it's like my stuff is the 2nd house, Taurus. It's mine. Everyone's a parent that has a 2-year-old, they're like, it's mine. Or if they have a sibling and then they pick up a toy and the other one's like, it's mine, and they'll want it. And then the sibling go pick another toy, like, no, it's mine. And they don't care about the toy. It's just mine. And then the opposite sign, Scorpio, amongst other things, I'm just talking about money right now. Scorpio is other people's money, or banks or institutions or whatever. So eclipses show things, and they get rid of things. They can shine light on. Those are the luminaries, or the sun and moon. And also, like, Taurus is great at they'll have nice throat, musical singing capabilities, or fine jewelry. They're very in tune with high quality stuff. And again, possessions, it's like their style is very acute typically. And then the Scorpio gets way into like occult, which is just a fancy word for, a few people understand this because they've studied it, and most people don't, and then the most people go, oh, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. Well, I think with Pluto and Aquarius coming, and it's already an orb, once it's close, some people are like, it's got to change the sign, but I'm one of those people. It's like, it's an orb, and it's in the very high 20s. And as it gets to 30, or it flips, it's really 0, and you start the new sign, which it'll go into in the springtime. So we're already feeling the effects. So speaking of Scorpio and Taurus, back to that, the eclipses we've had. Where's my super sheet? Oh yeah, I have it all here so I could see it without taking my eyes off the camera, sort of. So we just had eclipse, or we're going to have an eclipse on the 25th, so we're on the 21st today. So in 4 days,
ooh,
at 2 Scorpio. So that's kind of like, that's not really an intro. We had back in spring, in April, the end of April and the middle of May, we had a Taurus at 10 on April 30th, and Scorpio 25 degrees in May 15th. So now and usually you have 2, you can't have 3, but usually it's 2 every 6 months, because the nodes have it goes across the chart, and there are 2 signs. So as the sun makes its way around, the sun's going to match the moon, and every month the moon comes around and conjuncts and opposes the sun. So every sign, it's going to get those. Sometimes an extra one, we call that a blue moon. If it squeezes in within a quarter, you get 4 of them instead of only 3. But anyways, so now that early one was in spring and now we're in fall. And I think that's also another indicator of how much change it is, because the the solstice points, the winter and summer solstice is when the day or night is extreme and the opposite is short. But this is the equinox, is spring and fall. It's balanced and it's shifting. So it's really a changing point. It's coming up to the zero and it's going to pass above it, or it's going down and it's going to pass, because the sine wave, the middle is zero. So it'll go up and down. And I'm always saying life is like more like a wave, and it's not equal. It's like there's ups and downs.
Right.
I tease the financial guys are like, over time your money go up and it'll be perfect. It's like, no, over time things are up and things are down. Things have cycles. That's why we study astrology. Everything's a cycle. So
And
so the
everything
cycle.
is a cycle.
Yeah, so we're focusing on money. Also, America's having its Pluto return. There's another hit. I think it's at the very end of December, the third hit. So they've all been in this year. So this is a very fluctuating year. And the other eclipse I started trying to keep on point here. The other eclipse is November 8th at 16 Taurus, and that's election day here. So when you have an eclipse on election day, yeah, who knows what's gonna, we've argued about elections before. That's the new vogue thing. It's like, I didn't really win, or I did win, or whatever, all questioning and fake news or fake reality or fake reporting, or who knows. It's fascinating. Another thing, as we're evolving, and I think Pluto and Aquarius too, is like we're doing, we're making a show in Aquarius, technology, and everybody's making the show and expressing themselves. And I think part of what's going to happen is, the authority of just a few people, it's already shifting. It used to be you had to watch the news, you had to be at home, sit in your chair, or at a bar somewhere, but you had to be sitting in front of the TV at a certain time. Now you can watch anytime you want, and people are creating their own stuff, and a lot of it's silly and not professional, and we're trying to get better, but anyways, we're evolving and learning to share our opinions and be unique, because no matter what you do, you're going to come off different.
Exactly. And dear Shawn, we
Yes.
can be professional and silly.
All
There's
right.
there
Yeah.
is there is a lightness that comes with
Yeah.
laughter, and that's very healing. And
Right.
as long as we are paving this way with love and light,
Right.
bringing the joy and silliness, and the
Awesome.
truth that we bring through, um, being open and to the higher guidance coming through, and
Right.
toe that
So,
road,
right. So
we are
brilliant.
there.
Thanks for injecting that. And I won't call it an interruption. It was a perfect ad. Again, back to Mars is dealing with this Gemini, which is basic communicating. So like one thing to work on myself is how you phrase things. I've gotten a little old and a little crusty. It's like, "Rah, rah, rah, rah." It's like, no, be happy and be silly and have fun, and think positive and work on the positive vibes. And like we've done your guided meditation, hopefully we'll get another one tonight or today. And breathe and be loving and open to stuff, instead of, when we're stressed, we roll our shoulders, and we limit our breathing, and we're tense, and we're, white knuckle. And short term, it might be good for a fight, but it's like living life and expanding and learning and growing and doing, not so good. So
Yeah,
that's, I think, still is that the main emphasis is the Mars working that Gemini, because it's in a sign for months. It's like 7 months, 8 months, it's a long time. So that's very stressing. It's all in one sign. So it's like work your Gemini. So basic communication, and a Gemini will, just like you said, it's like make light of things and not be too intense about it. So that's a good thing. If you're too intense about it, and Taurus and Scorpio, they're fixed signs. You can get too intense. Two fixed signs can get stuck. They achieve a lot, but you can, to a fault. I'm guilty. I've got a fixed T square. It's like you just keep doing it, even though you should maybe drop it or letting it go. And that was another thing I was going to point
really.
out. Yeah, yeah, yes.
Who knew?
As the
Who
other fixed
knew?
signs, like, well, me
This
too.
little Scorpio?
Yeah,
Who
yeah,
knew?
yeah. The eclipses being in fixed signs, it's time to let go of stuff. And I've seen people in old works I've done where they didn't want to let go of a project. you know, an artistic project, and it's like, this is my baby, I'm not going to change. And they do anything they could to manipulate extending the schedule, do little stuff that would take up time just because they didn't want to, you know, it's like, raise your child and let it go out into the world, do the best you can and let it stand on its feet, or it's the person, whatever, that they, and do their thing. So, so many things. Or I think one of the best analogies is, whether it's you or your project, it's like a garden. You got to tend it, you got to plant it, you know, prepare, plant the seeds. You know, the ideas come from the seeds, and nurture it and weed it and water it and care for it and love it and spend time and watch it and through the different stages. So, and Gemini's very good at noticing, no matter how many details. Like Gemini, you'll describe they could be doing a podcast and listening to a radio and being on a phone call and, you know, working with their hands doing a project. So Gemini is very gifted in multiplicity and you know, and that's the ultimate mutable, doing anything. And I've done that little, you know, I had a friend who had a little vial of mercury when we were kids in his rock collection, and he poured out and would splatter in all these little like ball bearing little spheres, but then it would join back together. So it's like, there's many ways to be receptive of many different, you know, media now, you know, how many channels and making your shows and whatnot. But it's like, bring it together somehow and find a good positive way. As a child, you know, some Zen masters or whatever different techniques, it's like the child's mind open and enthusiastic and interested and in awe, and have fun with it, you know, as opposed to fear and don't touch the stove and burn your hand and be afraid of fire or whatever, you know. It's like, but you got to balance it. You know, Saturn's like, you got to have boundaries. So Saturn,
Yeah.
let me list off some of the planets. So Mercury at the very beginning of October went direct. It had started the month before, but so October 2nd, Mercury went direct. The 8th, Pluto went direct, which is a huge one. So again, that's another initiator of it. It will not retrograde until it's already in Aquarius. It only gets to 0, but it's going to break the plane of the next sign, the ingress, and go to the next sign. So it's already on its way. It won't go backwards until it touches Aquarius. So that's another indicator. The orb is very close, and it only moves so far. So, and then Saturn goes direct tomorrow. So again, the more action, things should get more productive, and more things happen in the outside world. And that's kind of getting out of our shell. You can already feel it moving. It's like, once you get to Saturn, when things station for a week or two, and Pluto and Neptune even like longer, they call it stationing. It's standing still. It's only going to move a minute or two at the most for a good, you know, fortnight, give or take. So what else do we have? And then Jupiter's going to go into Pisces on the 27th, just in time for Halloween over here. It's big holiday over here. And so Pisces is decorative and ornamental and psychic and designing and artistic. So the artistic's going to flow. Yeah. So Jupiter's going to, it used to just stay in a sign, but now it's got to the point where it's going to go into Aries, and it'll back into Pisces again a little bit and then move on, I believe. Let me check. Anyways, the focus right now is doing the Pisces. Yeah. That's right. It got into Aries and it's retrograding, and it's going to go back into the late degrees of Pisces. And that's always interesting because the last sign is Pisces, and when you get to the last couple of degrees, especially 29, people that have that in their chart, they're very in tune with incredible stuff that most of us can't see or understand, and that there's a certain thing, and they'll be very interested in just incredible stuff, are very artistic, and just there's kind of a no, but Neptune is kind of feeling. And that's another thing with the Mars going retrograde. It's retrograde 25, and Neptune is at what is it at 23, 22. It's going backwards, but yeah, it's going to go to 22. So Mars numerically it went up to 25, and those are both mutable signs. So when they're the same, yeah, are mutable, yeah, when they're the same modality, which is cardinal, fixed, or mutable. We were teasing fixed before. Cardinal gets things started, but they might not finish. And then mutable, it's really good at transition. So if you have mutable planets, all this transition might be kind of your, you know, je ne sais quoi or whatever. And maybe you can excel where everyone else is like, whoa, you know, you're more flexible, or more, you know, like the Japanese word Jew. It's like, I'm probably not pronouncing it right, but it's like, it means in American, if it's something's floppy or something, like, oh, it's weak, but in Japanese Jew and all the martial arts, a lot of them start with Jew, and their name is it's supple like a tree blowing in the wind. It won't break. It gives and it moves with the energy. So that's kind of a, a mutable thing.
Yes. So Shawn,
Yes. Did I
let's
run
move
out
with
of
energy.
time? Time's up.
No, no, you can keep going, but
Okay.
you just said move with energy.
Yes. You like that. Yeah, of course
I
you.
like that. I'm
Yeah.
like, let's move with
And
some
Aquarius
energy.
like saying energy and crystals and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
another thing.
What's left?
And then yeah, then the election, pushing into November 11th is 16 Taurus. So people with stuff from 2 to 16 really look in your chart and that eclipse will affect it, especially conjunctions and oppositions, but squares too. Those are the hard angles, the cardinal angles that seem to activate things. So the best way to give a reading, like I've said, find people online or wherever that resonate with you and seem to be true what they're saying, because they'll have a style that'll match with yours. But dealing with those money issues, whether it's your money or other people's money or possessions, it's like it's time, be proactive and get rid of stuff, or maybe acquire stuff at a fire sale or a something sale or something, there'll be a heavy transition energy. So be open to that, and instead of like, oh no, more change, it's like, oh, there's opportunity, because there's, what is that, the Chinese, the symbol of chaos and opportunity is the same or something like that. Like when things change, you could say, oh, it's chaos and it's horrible, or there's new things opening in the eclipse. One door is closing but another opens, or you clean out your closet and it's like, wow, there's actually room, and then within a day or a week you put more stuff in, it's full, but you're letting space, you're making space for the universe to gift you with more things, or God, or whatever you want to call it. So
Right. Or just to simplify.
yeah, so that's mostly the transitions. um and then again, just another example, like colds and flu, like the transition again, the season, it's very interesting. The spring and winter is a big deal, because they go from one, like we're going into the fall, so the days used to be longer in the summer, they were the longest, and now they're going to be equal. Like today or tomorrow it shifts in. Where's my chart? Yeah, we're at 28. Should I share that, or we could touch? I didn't really explain all that. I didn't show you, but that's all right.
Yes.
It's Gemini. No worries. So the shift, and then the nights are going to get longer. So I know here, like it started to get cold, and then we had hot days, and then cold and hot. And if you notice, a lot of people, they'll get sick because it changed overnight. The degrees flip and go really hot or really cold, and it's that transition, and that's the hardest part, because our body needs to acclimate. And if you're weak or your immune system's a little down, and all of a sudden it shifts, if you're sitting in an air conditioned room all the time and you go outside, it's blazing, it's like you can get a cold like that, I guess, or something. So
Some people do.
again, the shifts, it's like work with it and acknowledge it, and just try to find the silver lining somehow, or the opportunity for you. So I think
Okay. There's lots of change
that's
though. And so
yeah. There,
just
all those planets changing direction in 1 month. It's a lot.
that's a lot of movement.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
been in a style and it's been introverted, and now it's getting extroverted, or vice versa. Or, it's like, oh, it's kind of been on the back burner, or I've been mentally talking about it, now I have to shift into doing it, and or vice versa. And then it
Right.
depends too on your chart. If you have those planets retrograde or direct, it's like it'll be more akin to you if it's matching
Mm.
now, or it'll be against
Oh,
you a little bit. Yeah.
right.
Again,
Because sometimes people are born with
yeah.
things in retrograde,
Like I have
planets
Mercury
or
retrograde. I have Mercury retrograde. I have Mercury retrograde. So when Mercury's retrograde, I'm like, yeah, what else is new?
it's good timing.
Yeah.
You chose that to come in with.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or a Capricorn, it's like, oh, Saturn's really prominent. They're like, yeah, I work with Saturn. That's my ruler, my son's ruler. I'm always working Capricorn. It's like good times. It's kind of like your slot. Even if it's hard work or it's a
Ah,
challenge, it's like, this is my slot. So it's so important to learn your chart. There's all this basic stuff you can find online for lessons for free. There's plenty of websites that, will make your chart, and just a little bit of study if you get into it, or if you get a reading, you can go over this if they explain it in that kind of way. You
right.
really empowerment by know thyself. It's really a great tool.
Right. And we do. I mean, we are in this incredible digital age that you can look up nearly anything
Yeah,
online to get information. Just make
right.
sure you
to learn.
resonate with it, that there's a truth in it. And because a lot of people
Yeah.
just put words out. So you want to make sure that there's vibration, a
Yeah, if
good
they're
vibration and
credible,
truth
if it,
to the
yeah,
words.
or that's like you teach, just like feel the vibe or let your guides guide you or whatever. You use whatever tools you can to see if that's the right information you need to be
Right.
hearing, if they're articulating it in a
Right. And
truthful,
well,
whatever truthful is, yeah, accurate
exactly.
maybe, hopefully.
Right. Well, and so one of the things that I do that helps me with my filters is if somebody gets too um I don't know if the word's dogmatic, but they're very fearful. But you should be careful and don't do. And if it gets too much of that kind of energy,
Right.
typically I shy away. I don't shy away because it's somebody telling me what to do, or it's more that that vibration contains a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear-based
Yeah.
element of it. Because the same thing, if there genuinely is, like if we were talking about something, Shawn, and you said, this aspect is really hard. So, stay grounded, do what you can to be present, and do your best to work the energy so you're not worked by it.
Right.
You can
Right.
you can say that without it being, oh, this could be really hard energy and you really need to be careful around. So you sense a vibration in what a person's saying. And if it's fear, if there's any touches of fear, um, or drama, I stay away from the fear and the drama. Move back to love because there are a lot of
Right.
love-filled beings with,
Yeah. And
things to impart.
yeah. And one of the new things I've been hearing a lot of the younger people say, it's like, I have, and it's true, you have all the signs in your chart and say like fear, uh, the axis of Cancer and Capricorn, very fear-based. The mom has to protect, the dad has to protect, it's like very the nurturing parents, guardians, whatever. There's a built-in reaction to fear and dealing with stuff. But again, you want to breathe easy and it's, like violence and war or whatever, it's like the last possible thing. It's like you can work it out. Again, the Mars is teaching us, it's like emphasize, work on talking about it and don't lose it. It's like violence is the admittance of ignorance. It's like if you can stay calm and keep, think of the person's side of you and, smile and be nice to them. I mean, that's what I try to do. I don't sometimes you but it's like we're all doing our best. That's another thing, like the four agreements, that everyone's doing their best and people are projecting or they're like I always tell my kids, like, people could be showing you how not to be or how not to act. It's like, oh, what a gift to remind me not to be that way. And that story I have the guy's a great manager and everybody loves him. And like, how are you such a good manager? It's like I had a lot of bad managers, a lot of managers that show he didn't even say bad, but he's like, I had many managers that taught me how not to act and what not to do. And
Right.
sometimes that's powerful. You don't have to have a lot of knowledge, but if you know what not to do, like actually, I had a neighbor that was a mason, and he helped me with my house, and I would go help him with his house or other people. And the first thing I learned, like there'd be a whole bunch of masons that doing like a driveway, big slab or something. My first thing I'd like do is like, first of all, don't get in their way. They need something handed to them, or you need help, or they ask you. But it's like the first thing is like, don't gawk and stand in their way if you're not familiar with the situation or you don't know the workflow or whatever. So, and
Right.
again, that the Gemini is very receptive and very observation observative. So, their observation skills are very keen. They're wired totally like to pay attention to everything, and so that might be that's a good Mars strategy thought. It's like if I'm having a problem or if I feel all tense, it's like step back, take a breath, listen to one of Valerie's guided meditations, but see what you're missing, or try to look for more information, or find a positive information, or just think of it a different way, or combine something, add something to it, or subtract. It's like give and take.
Right. And
Mhm.
so in that moment too, when we get frustrated or stuck or things aren't working around us, is when we pause, we stop and breathe. Breathing's important. Not just the breath that
Keeps
keeps us
keeps
alive,
keeps
but just it's that breath of pause, right? To just
right.
let me move into a calmer place. Let me move into being the observer here, observational
Yeah.
mode. and let me just be open. And in this moment, I'm asking my higher guidance for help.
Yeah.
And whether that is coming from angels, for some people it's angels, for some people it's spirit guides, for some people it's both of those and other beings that are here helping us, or our soul connections, where we may open and connect with our soul. In that moment, we're just pausing and just, okay, and just allow the space. It seems like there's so much coming at us constantly. It's
Right.
really important to just pause a moment and allow the space.
Right.
We don't need all these things running. I catch my son and it's like he's on the computer to do homework, but he has a video playing while he's doing this math homework and TV on. And it's like, okay, this is way too much stimulation. Let's have quiet time.
Right.
Turn off the TV, turn off the video. The silence is important. Silence
Yeah.
is important to quiet the brain and be present, because that's when information comes in or guidance comes in.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
But
And
again, the polar opposites, Gemini and Sagittarius are connected. So, and a lot of times, especially when you're younger, you'll do the opposite sign. So, like a Sagittarius might be very Gemini. And you can have stuff in the Gemini house, the third house, or you can have, your Mercury ruling your sun or some other planet. So there's a lot of ways that you can express that. You don't just have to have sun in Gemini. That's in the beginning, people just kind of say sun, whatever. And
right. Well, and yes, and my son is a Sagittarius, and oh no, mom, I need all this on in the background. It helps me. It helps me because I'm trying to design this, and I'm watching that show because I like the way, this is
uh-huh.
happening. It shows me the buildings, it shows me the
Right.
cars. And then I've got this video on for this reason, and I'm working here.
Yeah.
And I'm just
Yeah. And that's total mutable. Like I was
okay.
explaining multiple. Yeah. Where a fixed sign is like, I need dead quiet and I need to focus on what I'm doing and don't bother me and don't interrupt me. I get the most work done like a lot of times late at night or early in the morning because there's no, even the karmic, like all the people's minds, if you're psychic,
Thank
it's like
you.
they're all
Thank
asleep.
you.
They're all asleep. I can work. There's
How
so much chatter. I'm so tuned in. It's horrible. Yeah.
That's what I say often. I'm like, I either have to
Yeah.
early in the morning or I have to stay up in the night
Yeah.
so it can be quiet.
It's very challenging to be a parent and have your kids different strengths and different modalities. It's very, and it's that's a challenge, and again, here's Mars, your action strategy planet. It's just hanging out in Gemini. It's like, how can I make this simple? How can I get the right combination of many things and be nice and have a good time and not get all caught up and go like this into whatever. It's like, how do I keep breathing? Gemini, the lungs, the the circular delivery system. Aquarius too, and the lungs is Leo and the chest. But anyways, all the particulars. I've heard so many different ways. I got my Rex Bills book here. I could look it up, but I think Gemini's the lungs. That's another thing. People. Here's another thing I heard from an old astrologer is that people that smoke, they have a lot of Gemini in them, and it's like they're working their lungs. They want to work, and your lungs,
Mm,
when you're talking, breathing, and it's all like this coordination. That's another thing. Or Gemini, they're usually not out of breath. They just know how to talk and breathe without any issues. Where some of us are like, like Gemini's don't go. They're just like, this is great. We'll just keep talking. There's no problem.
So we're actually coming up on our time. I want to circle back to something,
Mercury
and
in
that
retrograde.
is
Mercury in retrograde.
that
Mercury.
is
That's fine.
um it's fun.
No, it's
So
fine. It's fine too. It's like it's please.
the for someone who has eh, well, earlier you mentioned like misinformation. Sometimes we don't have the
Mhm.
right information, and then that information can affect, because we're acting on
Yeah.
misinformation. It'll affect how we interact. It'll affect how we engage others and ourselves. And so coming back to this idea, if we're in a relationship with someone and that person has misinformation about us and has disconnected from us, in terms of astrology, because I know energy wise, my suggestions, but in terms of the astrology world,
Mhm.
you know, what's good for a person to handle that situation? Because it hurts that this person is not in our life and has a false viewpoint of us.
Right.
And it can even be like, with what I'm thinking of in this moment as I'm speaking to you, it can even
Mhm.
be it's a simple miscommunication, right? I say simple. It wasn't simple. It obviously was a very big miscommunication.
It was a little minor detail and it turned into a blazing fire. The volcano erupted.
Different understandings of language.
Yeah.
Right? And it created something that then created, and granted, each of us
Yeah.
have our own personal wounds, which is where we come from. When we react to somebody else, you know, it may not even be that person that we're reacting to, but it's an old wound, right? It triggered an old wound, and we do not want to be hurt again. And so it's easier to disappear or walk away or just
Right.
like, you know, say I can't do this anymore. Um, and so I don't know, astrology wise, Shawn,
Mhm.
what words would you say? Or is that opening too much in closing
No,
time?
no, no. There's no such thing as too much for Aquarius, or Sag or whatever. Um, well, first, well, there's an old, if you're angry, count to 10. If you're really angry, count to 100. And that's these aspects, everything's moving. And when it hits a nice plumb angle of 90 degrees, ooh, you can feel it. Because as an astrologer, like someone will lay some heat on me, whatever, some smoke or whatever you call it now, with the hip kids, it's like, ah. I'm like, whoa. And again, it's the ego, and it's like, oh, we could just start fighting. I have an ego, blah blah blah, and you said blah 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 to me, and blah 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 to you. It's like, know that there's an intense aspect, and they're working. It's hitting their chart, and it's hitting your chart too, because you guys are crossing the path. Count to 10 or count to 100 or breathe in. And there's all these techniques I was going to mention earlier, like if you see guys in court, or when the Congress is interview them, they'll like take off their glasses and clean them, or typical many presidents, or just people of authority, they're like, this sucks, and blah blah blah, and you go, that's a really good question. And just doing that, you're acting calm, you're breathing, and you're giving pause for that aspect to go a little bit farther, or to, we call it perfection. It's like it's a perfect 90-degree angle. It's like 90-degree angle, something's going to happen. Ugh. It's like, okay, if you count to 10 or whatever, it's going to start to dissipate, unless there's other aspects too. It could mount, there's that too, but typically that specific activation point, shall we call it, in time, a given point, it's like, so that's kind of like a preemptive thing, or when it's happening, and also it's to learn from, that's the mutable parts, like what happened, how do we transition, or how do we keep this in mind, of what did I say or what did I miss say, and what we think in our head and what we actually say and what they actually hear, it's totally different.
It's totally
So
different.
there's
Yeah.
techniques like, what I think you're saying is this, or what I hear you saying, and you melding with people. It's like some people use auditory words, or like, this sounds horrible to me, and they use sound words like this, I hear you, or this sounds like, or this resonates, or this rings the truth, or whatever.
Oh, right.
Or if they're visual words, that people like to use sight words, the visual people, typically more air signs, not always, but you just listen to them. If they say, I see what you're saying, or that looks great, or, visual words. And then there's
Right.
tactile, the earth signs, it's like, let's touch base, or let me get back to you, or they use, prepositional, positions words. So that's one thing to like meld with them. Some people, like, I'm like, I just don't like that person. I look at their charts, like I'll have a hard square. So it's like their chemistry or whatever is bad, or in the moment, if it's something you get along with mostly, and all of a sudden you have an issue, it's like the transits or progression or something is moving and making a hard angle. So that's one way. Um,
And those are all good.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
sometimes in conversation,
Oh, and the other thing is, again, I'm biased. I'm an astrologer. I'm a Aquarius. My moon's on the astrologer's degree. My Uranus is on the other astrologer's degree. Anyways, know your chart. Know thyself. It's like the more you know your chart, you'll see where you have Achilles heel or you get irritated at certain things because you're this way. Like, like we were joking, the fixed sign. It's like we're going to stick on this and finish it. And the immutable's like, can we just run around or think or talk about lots of stuff? And you're like, I want to focus and completion. Or the cardinal side's like, I'm just going to start this, and you're like, shouldn't we have the fixed sign? Shouldn't we have a plan? Or they just do it, and you're like, you should plan it. And again, like in war, sometimes it works out for them. Other times, like, oh, but again, we all have our styles, and that's the beauty of life. This spice. What is it? The varieties of spice life. Like everyone's unique. I defy anyone to show me charts they're not going to match. I mean, and then if they
right.
do, there's nurture nature. It's like there's a classic chart of a cobbler and a king were born same chart, but in the same kingdom. So they're very, it's like 1 degree every 60 miles, nautical mile or whatever. So if you're born the same time in a location of pretty close to each other, your chart's going to be the same. But the king being of his stature, his surroundings and entitlements and challenges were totally different than a cobbler. But they both had the same amount of kids, and
Hmm.
they had different things. So there's always going to be differences, even if it is the same chart. But again, the wheel turns every day. It turns the whole zodiac basically. And every month the moon goes around, and like we're talking about the Pluto return in the US, it's almost 250 years. So, and then all the planets in between are all different amounts of years or months. It's never the same. So every moment is new and unique to see another angle or to learn or to have a conflict come up because maybe you have a character flaw and you should work on it. Or maybe they have a character flaw and they're showing it to you, look at me, I'm really pissed, bro. Or maybe it's, what do they say? The dark side or your shadow. It's like we all have an evil, mean part. It's like when you have to deal with stuff or put your foot down or whatever, or you have to set boundaries for a kid and it's believable. And it's like we have all these gifts and powers, and where you call them dark or light or whatever. Again, the more you learn your chart, you'll see where you're like really good or you have a weakness or it's not as prominent. You get to know
Right.
yourself, and it's like I know I'm going to be pissed if they start talking about politics. That's the Aquarius. Like, but so know
Yeah.
yourself, and then
So
if you're in a situation where you don't want the person to blow up, if you're in public or whatever, or if you're sipping wine and having a nice conversation with your friend, maybe you can delve into that. Or before the show, we talk about stuff. The Aquarians always
well,
blurting out stuff.
yeah,
So
and
yeah.
and in this situation, for many people, like
Mhm.
the other person just is no longer present in their life.
It might be
It's
a big
not. It's
signal. It's
not.
like
Yeah.
it's
It's
the
not
straw
that
that broke the
they.
camel's back. I'm not doing this anymore. They
Yeah.
have the same pattern, and we always seem to click on this. And again, we're possessive. We don't want change. Like I know them. It's like it's maybe it's let go time.
Right. Right. But yeah, and so I'm gonna come
Mhm.
in from the energy place here. Um.
Cool.
Um. That was all great advice, interacting, and
Oh, thanks.
allowing for the differences, because there is no coincidence. When we come together as souls, we come together for reasons. We're in
What?
relationships with one another for reasons. um,
What?
yeah. And
We're never out of school. Ugh.
always fun, right? No one can get your
Yeah.
trigger like your soulmates,
Yeah.
or
It's
this.
never boring, is it? It's never
So
boring. Or people when they're bored, it's like that's a signal that you're changing and your mind's like, I'm not going with the default. You're recognizing stuff and you want new stuff, but what do you know that's new? You got to try something new. So that's that kind of pause or shifting. So
right.
even being
So
bored, it's more like a transition. You're not really bored, but you're like really concentrating on what do I want to do so I'm not bored, or how do I want to transition. And again,
mm,
mutable signs, Mars is your action planet. It's an immutable sign. It's perfect time to test in, new waters or new anything.
so
And you don't have to
you
change. You can let new stuff come in.
right. One, this is
Yeah.
the part. This is the part to get to the
Mhm.
healing of these
Okay.
things. When we're in relationship, we can put these tools in practice, but sometimes we're not in this. The person is no longer present. So for my own personal
Mm,
situation, what I had put into action is just coming to this place of love, and I just processing my own letting go, my own surrendering, and having to forgive the self if there was anything I said or did that I was unaware of, because I'm
mhm.
coming from my own place doing the best I can, right? And so just going into that, being willing to look, is there anything for me that I need to forgive myself for my part that may have created the situation?
Yeah, it
And
takes two
I
to tango, you
open
know?
my heart, and then
Yeah,
but then also with the other person, um just forgiveness if you're able to get to that point,
right.
forgiveness that for anything that transpired on that other person's end, because if we carry the hurt, if we carry the wound,
It hurts.
it it affects us, right? And then but if we get angry, if we're angry or we feel very triggered about the situation, then that means that we don't have peace, we're not present. So we're losing energy there. We're losing
Right,
energy. So we have to come to a place of
right,
accepting kind of what is. And for me, send only love helped me through. It's my motto, send only love, because if I'm angry and upset, um, then I am projecting fear
right,
or emotions, and that doesn't help change the situation.
right. You're
And so
actually building inside you too the negatives, maybe. Yeah.
right. And so we move to a place where, and it's easier with some people than others. I'm not saying that this is an easy task or an easy journey for those of us who walk this and have to do
Hmm.
this. It's just moving to a depth of greater love for ourselves. And then
Hmm.
depending on the relationships, because there's many different relationships this takes form in for people. It could be siblings that are missing. It could be a partner, a life partner that's missing. It could
Hmm.
be our children that are missing, best friends that are missing, especially the last years of that we've gone through, especially in the US with the divide politically and people becoming so polarized. A lot of
Hmm.
us are missing loved ones, and there's no way to communicate now because there's such a radical difference. And so it's kind of moving to finding this place and move. So breathing into the heart, we breathe into our hearts and just move into our center. And as we move into our center, and your hand can be, you can put your hand on your heart if you want, and one on the lower abdomen under the belly button. Those are two good points for our loved ones and loving ourselves, and our under the lower belly, that sacral area, that's our connection to others, um, as well as our passion in life. So moving into this place and just bring to mind anyone who you feel is missing and or has been gone from your life, but it was never resolved. It's just this person just is gone. um, Holding that person for a moment and just breathe into your heart, still opening the heart and focused on yourself now. Just love yourself. And, for me, I love you, Valorie. You can just say, I love you to yourself. And I, I forgive myself for any action or uh, lack of action on my part, any words, anything that contributed to how the relationship played out. I I forgive myself and breathe into that. And I love you to yourself, I love you. And now focusing on the other person, and just if you're ready for the forgiveness, and if you're not ready for forgiving, it's okay if forgiveness is needed, but I forgive you for any actions or lack of actions on your part, or any words that have wounded me, and whether intentional or unintentional on your part. I forgive you, and I choose to let this go for my health, for my wholeness. I release this pain. Breathe into your heart. And now breathe into the love you feel for that person. Not the love for the wounded action, but the love you feel for that person's true soul, the person you were in love with, the person you care about, even though they're not physically present in your life. The love is real. Only the love is real. And now you can, with whatever words are right for you, I lovingly release you. And I hold this space of love. Breathe into your heart again. And then you can just let that thought of that person go. For some people, they may have already faded. Moving back into your focus for yourself. And feel yourself. Feel yourself strong in your love. I love myself. I take care of myself. Love is infinite. And I can carry this love because the love is real. And the love is what I allow to hold the form of this memory of this person in relationship. The love is what I hold. Breathe into that. And now as you take another breath, we're calling in the higher love and light from source, from our soul, from the universe, from God. Just higher love and light. We're breathing that in now. Filling our heart, filling our entire body physically. And you can breathe in and out as you need to. Just as you release the breath, you're letting go. And as you inhale, you're breathing in more of the love and light. As we breathe through to the emotional body, letting that go, that breath go. Breathing in more love and light now into our mental body. Releasing that to let it go. And now breathing the love and light into our spiritual body. And letting that breath go. With our next breath, we're breathing back into our heart center. Filling our heart all the way down to our sacral lower abdomen. Just filling our body, filling our being. And now letting this love that's within you, your love and your light, personal love and light, just shine. Just let it expand. As you exhale, let your light flow out around you. As you're breathing, love and light is coming in, and as you exhale, this love and light is flowing out all around you, and filling your entire space around you. This is the vibration now that you are broadcasting and beaming out is love. And now just gently relax and let that all go. As you coming back with your next breath, wiggle the fingers and toes. Bring your attention to your surroundings and then smile and open your eyes. Or if your eyes are already open, smile and come back.
Yay.
Yay. That's just a
That was
releasing.
nice. Yeah.
Oh, good. And that can work with the people who are directly who we still have in our life that maybe we have conflict with and we want to
Yeah.
move to a more loving space. Move out of the misunderstandings, move out of the judgment, and just allow that person to be where he or she is, or they are, and just hold the space of love because the love was real and that love
Yeah.
connection is there. And if we are to cross again, then that we all feel each other's love.
Right. And that's a great, again, I keep saying Mars and Gemini, but it's for a long time for the planet Mars. And again, that was a very proactive thing. And I think the thought that came to me is like self-maintenance. It's like whether it's like everything's crazy or this person I'm in an argument or whatever's going on. It's like find a quiet place where you're alone or, hide in the bathroom or whatever. Somewhere there's got to be a place you can escape, hopefully, and do some of this breath work. Or if you want to be analytical into astrology, like we have that transit calendar, you can see the aspects coming, and even transit to transit, you can see. And then, shameless plug, we have a product where we'll do the transits to your chart, so you can see things that are hitting your chart that you won't see in the free version is transit to transit, but that's another proactive way. It's like, okay, I'm going to have these squares going. What can I plan? Mars is your, strategy action hero. It's like, what can I plan that's proactive, and what do I want to do with the style, the signs and the angle and the houses and where it is in my life and who it's relating to and how it's relating to me. Do proactive things. And that can be as something as simple as doing, a self meditation or guided meditation, or find someone like Valorie or whoever resonates with you and do that kind of work, or somewhere in between, do some yoga or do your sports or go to a museum or take a bath or, whatever, do something for yourself. Like how often we're so serving to others and we're made, the old training was like, go to the factory and do whatever they tell you, no matter what, even if it kills you, just do it. It's a coal mine. It's okay. It might collapse and kill you and get black lung, but it's okay. Yeah. Now it's all, there's robots and automation. It's like, what do you need now more than ever? And again, the Mars and Gemini, it's very lighthearted. Explore, look at different things and gather information and pick and choose what you want to focus on and build your strategy.
Yes. Thank you, Shawn.
Thank
And
you.
thank you everyone here joining us live today or listening on a replay.
All you crazy
We're
people.
excited to have you here. So next broadcast is actually next week, I think is the last Tuesday of the month. We have Tuesday evening, last Tuesday of the month, or the third Friday. And the
last Thursday,
we are here.
Friday?
So it's the last Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific, and it's the third Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific. You're amazing. Remember, you're amazing. We forget, it's easy to forget, but breathe into that heart and remember.
Right,
and
the
when you
25th.
need to, and just connect. Yes.
Right, the 25th, the last Tuesday of the month. Right.
Yes, last Tuesday. Okay, so as we close here, we're out of time, but breathe, bring your heart, breathe your hands to the heart. Breathe into your heart, and this one's going to be fun. And then as you breathe into the heart, we are going to let our beautiful voices sound out however they need to sound. For some, it may be a roar. For some, it may be a sigh, but it's another way to release energy. So breathing in to the heart, and then you're going to open your hands and blow out, or, ready? And it can be a roar. You can do it maybe 3 times. And then a happy one. There you go.
Yay! Woohoo!
So now
It's
enjoy your
Friday.
day.
Woohoo!
Friday. So enjoy Until we're together again. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.